Basically, the menstrual cycle, it's what happens to the female body since the first menstrual period. Basically, it's a series of steps that happen in the body um, that are marked by the menstruation. So that's basically what we will consider the beginning of this cycle. And of course, it's the beginning at the end. That's the whole thing about calling it a cycle. So here I have two different images that basically tell us what's happening inside and in a hormonal level. So in the right, you will see pictures of the female reproductive system, and in your left, you'll see a series of lines and pictures, and that I will explain, of course. So here you'll see the first step, which is the menstrual phase. So that's the first day of the woman's cycle when they are beginning their menstruation. Basically, you can see in the picture that there's this dark red, bright dark red part, which is the endometrium. For those who were in the previous webinar, you already know that the endometrium is the lining of the uterus, the most inner part of the uterus, and it changes due to hormonal changes in the body. So of course, when this part of the body starts shedding, it causes the bleeding. So in this part correlates with this part of the picture, which is the beginning of the cycle. So in this, the first box here from the bottom up, you'll see that it shows how thick the endometrium is. So here we see that it starts getting thinner as, of course, the menstruation happens. This is the beginning of the period. And you'll see here other things, for example, the levels of how the estradiol and the progesterone is, and this is very, very, very important. Probably the temperature, which is shown here, it's important for something else, but not really this, this topic. And here you might see the ovarian cycle, which means what's happening to the follicle, which is the part of the ovary that creates and produces eggs. But basically, what we see here is that the cycle starts with a base level of estradiol and progesterone, which is basically the same, they're equal. And then as the cycle develops, the estradiol begins to increase. They both increase, but estradiol increase more than progesterone. You'll see that then, as this happens, the endometrium, this inner part of the uterus, begins to grow and gets thicker until it gets to the day 14. You can actually see here that's the day 14. That's where the ovulation happens, which means that an egg is released. Of course, when an egg is released, that means the female body is ready to get pregnant, basically. So of course, the whole body, it's preparing for that to happen. So the endometrium, which is the tissue that will actually host this implantation, which we call, it has to be thick, has to be rich in blood vessels, how you see here in the picture. You see that after the ovulation, the estradiol goes back to equal the level of progesterone, and then they begin to rise again. But now, during this phase, which is basically after the ovulation, we already passed the follicular phase. Here in the ovulation, in number 3, you see that the endometrium is thick, and you see that these hormones, now the progesterone, it's is higher, the level is higher than the estradiol. And then they peak and they slowly begin to fall again until the cycle begins. So basically, that's what's happening. Estradiol rising at the beginning of the phase before the the ovulation, estradiol is peaks more than progesterone, then it's the opposite. Progesterone is more than the estradiol, and then they both fall into a level, and that's when menstruation happens, when they both go back to the same level as they started here in the ovulation, and that's like the trigger for the menstruation. So that goes back to the cycle.